Hey there, yes, you. Are you lying awake tonight, searching for a story that carries both the weight of sorrow and the light of hope? Then close your eyes and listen closely. Tonight, I will take you back to the medieval age, to the quiet fields of a poor farmer and the guarded halls of a wealthy landlord. Between them grew a love the world tried to crush, a love whispered in shadows, hidden in stolen moments, threatened by greed and pride. This is not just a tale of passion, it is a journey through pain, sacrifice, and the courage to choose the heart's truth. So settle in, breathe slow, and let the story unfold, one step at a time until dreams carry you away.
The first light of dawn spilled gently across the fields. Mist clung low over the earth, and the cry of a lone rooster broke the silence. In the heart of the farmland, a young farmer rose from his straw bed. His hands were calloused, his body weary, but his heart carried a quiet strength. The world knew him only as a poor peasant, a man of soil, sweat, and sun. Yet within him lived dreams he dared not speak aloud. The oxen were yoked, their breath steaming in the cold morning air. Slowly, the wooden plow cut its lines through the damp soil. Each furrow was a promise of grain to come, of bread to be shared, of survival for another season. The farmer bent low, guiding the blade, his back aching, his skin damp with dew. Around him stretched fields that seemed endless, fields that gave life, but asked for life in return. Beyond the fields rose the manor of the landlord, tall stone walls, red tiled roofs, banners that swayed in the morning breeze. From where he stood, the farmer could see the distant windows catching the sun, and sometimes, just sometimes, a figure appeared there. A young woman, gazing out, her hair lit by gold, her eyes searching the horizon. He never knew if she truly saw him, but each glance was enough to set his heart beating faster. For what was he but a man of earth and dust, and she, the daughter of wealth and power? Between them stretched not just fields, but a gulf carved by class, by pride, by rules older than both of them. He knew such dreams were dangerous, and yet in the stillness of morning, when the world was soft and no one was watching, he allowed himself to hope. Inside the manor, the young woman's mother watched too. Her eyes were sharp, her heart colder than the stone walls she lived behind. She had dreams for her daughter, not of love, not of freedom, but of power. She saw suitors in her mind, the son of a neighboring lord, rich, cruel, ambitious. To her, love was nothing compared to alliance. And so, each time her daughter's gaze wandered toward the fields, her lips tightened. She would not allow such folly. But fate has ways of weaving threads where none should meet. That morning, as the farmer paused to rest, he looked up, and she was there, leaning just slightly from her window. Their eyes met across the distance. The world did not change, and yet, in that single heartbeat, everything was different.
Days passed, each one heavy with routine, yet the farmer could not stop thinking of her. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, he noticed a narrow path at the edge of the forest, overgrown, nearly hidden, yet inviting. His heart told him it led somewhere special, somewhere forbidden. With cautious steps, he followed it, the soft rustle of leaves whispering like a secret. The path opened into a secluded garden, enclosed by high stone walls and blooming with flowers that seemed to glow in the dim light. The scent of jasmine and wild roses filled the air, and there, amidst the blooms, stood the young woman, her hair loose, her gaze expectant. She had found this sanctuary herself, a place to breathe freely away from her mother's strict eyes. They did not speak at first. Silence stretched between them, soft and trembling, like a held breath. Then, with a small, cautious smile, she said, "I wondered if you would ever find this place." His voice, low and steady, replied, "I would follow any path to see you." The simplicity of their words held the weight of unspoken longing, and in that hidden garden, time seemed to pause. Around them, the world of wealth and poverty, of pride and rules, ceased to exist. The walls of the garden became their universe, the flowers their witnesses. Every glance, every hesitant step closer was a rebellion against the life that demanded they remain apart. The farmer, with his rough hands, reached out gently. She did not pull away. Their fingers brushed, a spark in the cool evening air, delicate as a whisper, but powerful as a storm. Yet, even in this sanctuary, fear lingered. Every sound of footsteps, every rustle in the trees reminded them of the mother's sharp eyes, of the cruel landlord's son who was always lurking nearby. They knew this peace could not last forever. Still, in those stolen moments, they chose courage over caution, hope over despair. As twilight deepened, the farmer bent slightly, pressing a small sprig of wildflowers in her hand. She held it close, her fingers trembling. In that simple gesture was a promise that no matter the walls, no matter the rules, no matter the world's harshness, their hearts had found each other. The garden, with its quiet magic, became the witness of a love both fragile and unyielding. Days turned into weeks, and each meeting in the secret garden felt like a heartbeat stolen from the world. Yet they both knew the garden could not hold them forever. Her mother's eyes were ever watchful, and the son of the neighboring lord roamed too close. They needed a way to speak, to share their thoughts and dreams without anyone knowing. One evening, the young woman sat by her window, quill in hand, candlelight flickering on her delicate features. She wrote slowly, pouring her heart onto the paper. Fears, desires, fleeting happiness, the longing for the farmer's touch. She folded the note carefully, tracing the edges with her fingers as if sealing a fragment of her soul inside. That night, when the world was quiet, she left the letter in the hollow of an old oak tree, a tree that only he knew. The farmer found it the next morning, the paper trembling in his calloused hands. He read her words again and again, the ink carrying her voice, her scent, her heartbeat. His own reply would wait until the night, when the stars alone watched him. By the light of the moon, he scrawled his thoughts onto another piece of paper, folding it carefully, and returned it to the tree. The exchange became a ritual, a whispered conversation of ink and paper, connecting hearts across the divide of class and circumstance. Each letter revealed more than words could speak. They shared dreams of a life free from oppression, of mornings in the fields, of laughter echoing in the manor's halls, of hands held in secret gardens. With every message, their bond deepened. Fear remained, always lurking at the edges, but hope blossomed stronger. They were no longer just a farmer and a landlord's daughter. They were two hearts daring to dream together. Yet, danger never slept. Rumors of their meetings began to whisper through the manor halls, carried by servants' cautious words. Each letter could be discovered, each step in the garden watched. Their hearts beat faster, their hands trembled, but neither dared to stop. Every stolen moment, every secret message became more precious than life itself. One night, beneath the silver light of the moon, the farmer pressed his lips to the paper before leaving it in the tree. A silent vow passed between them. No matter the obstacles, no matter the cruelty of others, our hearts are bound. The garden remained their haven, the letters their sanctuary, and in the quiet exchange, love persisted, fragile, secret, but unbreakable. The soft whispers of the wind carried more than just leaves. Rumors of the secret meetings had begun to reach the manor. The young woman's mother, sharp-eyed and vigilant, sensed that something was amiss. Her heart, already hardened by ambition, tightened at the thought of her daughter's defiance. She began watching the corridors, questioning the servants, her gaze piercing even the shadows. The farmer felt it too, a subtle weight pressing down on his shoulders. The letters he had cherished so dearly might soon be discovered. The garden, once a haven of whispered laughter and soft glances, now felt fragile, threatened. Yet every instinct within him urged him to continue, for love, after all, demanded courage even in the face of fear. One afternoon, as the young woman lingered near her window, the neighbor lord's son appeared in the garden. His smirk was cruel, his eyes calculating. "So, you think you can hide in shadows?" he sneered, stepping closer, the air around him heavy with threat. Her heart pounded, her fingers trembling, but she did not flee. She knew fear, but she also knew the farmer would not abandon her. The farmer, who had arrived quietly moments before, stepped forward. His posture firm, his eyes unwavering, he faced the intruder with a courage born from desperation and love. "She belongs to no one but herself," he said quietly, but with a strength that carried further than any shout. The son laughed, a cold, hollow sound, yet even in his amusement he understood the farmer's resolve. Before the confrontation could escalate further, the young woman's mother appeared, her presence commanding, eyes flashing with authority. She glared at the farmer as though he were a storm threatening her perfectly ordered life. "You think you can interfere in matters of wealth and status?" she demanded. "Mark my words, this will not end well for either of you." Her voice, sharp as a blade, cut through the garden air. Despite the threat, despite the fear, the young woman and the farmer shared a fleeting glance, a silent reassurance. Their hearts beat as one, their courage intertwined with hope. The confrontation ended with no blows struck, yet the danger remained, palpable, lurking in every shadow. And as night fell, the garden seemed to sigh, carrying with it the weight of both peril and promise. Night draped the village in silver shadows. The stars, like tiny lanterns in the sky, watched silently as the young woman quietly left her chamber. Her heart raced, not from fear alone, but from anticipation. Tonight, the garden awaited them, and for a few stolen hours, the world outside could not reach them. The path, hidden among the trees, seemed different under moonlight. The rustle of leaves whispered secrets of lovers long gone, and the soft fragrance of night-blooming flowers guided her steps. As she entered the garden, she saw him waiting, his silhouette outlined against the silver glow. He stepped forward, his eyes gentle, yet charged with an intensity that made her heart skip. They did not speak immediately. Silence enveloped them, heavy with the weight of longing and desire. Their hands met, fingers entwining in a quiet acknowledgement of the risks they faced. In that touch was a language no words could capture, the reassurance that they belonged to each other, even if the world demanded otherwise. Beneath the quiet sky, they shared dreams and whispered hopes. He spoke of fields they could one day walk together, of simple mornings filled with laughter, of a life unshackled by class and pride. She imagined a world where she could choose love over duty, where her heart guided her more than ambition. Each word, each glance, stitched their souls closer together. Even in this moonlit haven, the shadows lingered. Every rustle in the bushes, every distant creak of the manor reminded them of the dangers waiting outside. They were acutely aware that their stolen time could end at any moment. Yet the fear did not overpower the need to be close, to share a fleeting eternity before dawn. As the night deepened, the young woman rested her head on the farmer's shoulder. He held her gently, as if the strength of his arms could shield her from the world's cruelty. A a silent promise passed between them. No matter the trials, no matter the walls, no matter the forces trying to keep them apart, their hearts would find a way. And as the first hint of dawn painted the horizon, they parted reluctantly, carrying the secret warmth of the night with them, ready to face another day apart.
Days passed, yet the shadows of suspicion only deepened. The young woman's mother noticed changes. Her daughter's smiles in secret, the soft glow in her eyes, letters that disappeared before she could see them. The neighbor lord's son prowled closer, his smirk now edged with malice. Whispers in the manor corridors hinted at love that dared to cross the rigid lines of class. In the fields, the farmer felt it too, a heaviness in the air, a quiet tension he could not shake. Each visit to the secret gardens seemed riskier than before. Every step could be watched. Every glance could be misinterpreted. Yet he continued. Courage and love were his only guides, and he knew that stopping now would mean surrendering his heart. One afternoon, the neighbor lord's son cornered him near the edge of the village. "Stay away from her," he hissed, the threat clear in his tone. "You are nothing, just a peasant playing at love." The farmer met his gaze steadily. His hands were rough, his body tired, but his spirit burned brighter than fear. "She chooses her heart," he said quietly, "and that heart belongs to no one but herself." The young woman's mother, learning of this confrontation, became more controlling. She forbade her daughter from leaving the manor, stationed guards near windows, and demanded letters be delivered to her first. The walls of privilege became even higher, and the paths to the garden narrower. Every attempt to communicate became a perilous game. But in the quiet of the night, the young woman found small ways to rebel. She slipped letters to the tree when no one was watching, whispered her dreams to the wind, and clung to hope like a lifeline. The farmer, in return, worked harder to find moments, glances, and secret meetings. Their love, though threatened, did not waver. The danger was no longer a distant rumor. It was a tangible presence, shadowing their every step. Yet with each threat, their bond grew stronger. They knew that every stolen moment, every whispered word was precious, and that courage sometimes meant facing a world determined to tear you apart. And so, beneath the stars, they promised to endure, no matter the cost.
The village lay quiet under a blanket of silver moonlight. The stars blinked softly above, witnesses to countless untold stories. In her chamber, the young woman's fingers traced the edges of another letter, her heart racing with a mix of fear and longing. Tonight, the garden awaited, a fragile escape from the world's cruel rules. He was there already, waiting beneath the old oak tree. Their eyes met across the moonlit garden, and the world fell away. No words were needed. Each glance spoke of longing, of stolen moments, and of love defying boundaries. The silence between them was heavy, sweet, and electric. Slowly, cautiously, their hands met, fingers intertwined as if seeking reassurance, protection, and a connection deeper than any spoken vow. The touch was brief, yet it carried the weight of months of longing. In that small, forbidden gesture, they communicated every emotion: hope, desire, fear, and unwavering love. They both knew the danger, the shadows of the manor, the sharp eyes of the mother, the lurking threat of the cruel neighbor's son. They existed even in the garden's sanctuary. Yet in that instant, fear became fuel, intensifying their heart's rhythm, binding them closer. Every heartbeat was a declaration. They belonged to each other, no matter the cost. Leaning slightly closer, they exchanged whispered words, soft promises that no walls, no wealth, no pride could sever. Each word, fragile as the night air, stitched their souls tighter. Every sigh, every stolen smile became a lifeline in a world determined to keep them apart. As dawn approached, they reluctantly pulled apart, their hands lingering just a moment longer. A soft promise passed in silence. They would endure, survive, and find their way back to each other no matter the obstacles. The garden, bathed in early morning mist, held the memory of their forbidden touch, a spark that would guide them through the dark days ahead.
The young woman returned to her chamber, the early light of dawn filtering through the windows. Her mother stood waiting, her eyes sharp as daggers, her hands clenched with anger. She had learned of the garden meetings and the secret letters. The air was thick with her fury, and the young woman felt it chill, as if the walls themselves were closing in. "You will obey me," the mother said, her voice cold and unyielding. "You will end this foolish affair immediately. You will marry the son of a neighboring lord, a match worthy of your status, and you will forget that peasant boy." Every word fell like stones on the young woman's heart. The ultimatum was clear: obey or face consequences she dared not imagine. Tears threatened her eyes, yet she held her head high. The choice was cruel: surrender her heart for safety, for wealth, for the world's approval, or defy her mother, defy society, and risk everything for love. The silent weight of the decision pressed down upon her, each second stretching like an eternity. Meanwhile, the farmer sensed the storm brewing. From afar, he watched the manor, knowing that the invisible chains of class and authority were tightening. Yet he did not waver. Courage had been his companion from the beginning, and he would continue to fight for every stolen glance, every whispered word, every heartbeat shared with the woman he loved. Late that night, the young woman crept to the secret garden. The moonlight bathed her in silver as she met him beneath the old oak tree. In silence, they shared their fears, their pain, their resolve. "We cannot give up," he whispered. "Not now, not ever." And in that quiet vow, hope flickered once more, a fragile flame against the darkness of threats and ultimatums. The garden held them close that night, a sanctuary before the coming trials. Every stolen smile, every gentle touch became a defiance of the world that sought to separate them. They knew the days ahead would be perilous, yet in that moment they chose courage, love, and hope, ready to face whatever storm awaited. The young woman and the farmer met again under the old oak tree, the garden still bathed in silver moonlight. They knew the danger had grown, yet their love refused to bow. They spoke in hushed tones, plotting carefully, seeking a way to outwit the shadows that threatened to tear them apart. In their plan, they confided in an unlikely ally, a loyal servant of the manor, one who had long watched over the young woman with quiet affection and unwavering honesty. This friend promised discretion, promising to deliver letters, cover movements, and provide guidance through the labyrinth of danger that surrounded them. They devised clever ways to communicate: letters hidden in hollow trees, secret knocks on the window at twilight, and coded messages woven into daily chores. Each secret exchange strengthened their bond and built a small fortress of hope around their love, even as the threat of discovery loomed ever closer. Every encounter required stealth, patience, and courage. The young woman walked through the manor with careful steps, her heart pounding, while the farmer navigated the fields with vigilant eyes, ever watchful for the cruel neighbor's son and the watchful gaze of her mother. Each successful secret meeting was a small victory, a spark of triumph against the odds. Through the trials, their love deepened. Every whispered word, every brush of a hand, every moment of shared laughter became priceless. They discovered that adversity could strengthen hearts, that danger could ignite courage, and that hope, even in the darkest corners, could endure. As the night faded and dawn's first light painted the horizon, they parted once more. Their alliance, born of necessity and trust, had forged a new path, one that promised resilience, patience, and the courage to face the coming storms. And in that fragile glow of possibility, their hearts beat in quiet, unwavering unity.
For weeks, their secret alliance had worked flawlessly. Letters exchanged, meetings held, and small victories won. The young woman and the farmer felt hope quietly blossoming, as if the world might, for a fleeting moment, relent. But the calm before the storm is often the most dangerous. One evening, as the young woman returned from the garden, she noticed the subtle shift, a servant watching too closely, a shadow that lingered longer than it should. Her heart sank. Somewhere, someone had discovered their carefully hidden world. Fear tightened around her chest like a vice, whispering that their secret might no longer be safe. It was the neighbor lord's son, emboldened by his cunning and cruelty. He had bribed a weak-minded servant to spy on them, to report their every movement. That night, he revealed the betrayal, a cruel smile playing across his lips. "You thought you could hide from me," he taunted, knowing the weight his revelation carried. The young woman's heart ached, not for herself, but for the trust they had built, now fractured. The farmer's eyes, dark with anger and hurt, met hers across the garden. Even in betrayal, their bond remained, but the stakes had changed. The world outside was closing in, and the shadows of danger had never been darker. That night, beneath the cold, silver moonlight, they made a silent vow. They would not falter. Every moment of trust betrayed would become fuel for their courage. Every act of cruelty would strengthen their resolve. Though the world sought to separate them, their hearts refused to yield. With trembling hands, the young woman pressed her palm against his, a silent message of resilience. The betrayal was real, the danger imminent, but their love had grown too strong to be broken by shadows and lies. And as the night deepened, they parted with heavy hearts, but unbroken spirits, ready to face the treacherous path ahead.
The betrayal had shaken them, yet it had also ignited a quiet determination. The young woman and the farmer met once more in their secret garden, the moon casting silver light across the blooms. They spoke in hushed tones, carefully plotting their next steps. There could be no mistakes. Every move had to be precise, every choice deliberate. The farmer had studied the surrounding fields for weeks, noting every hidden path, every shadowed corner, every tree that could provide cover. He whispered the plan to her, his voice low but steady. "Tonight, when the world sleeps, we will leave through the northern woods. No one must follow us. No one must see." Her heart pounded, a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Freedom was within reach, yet peril stalked every step. Their loyal servant, the one who had aided them all along, would guide them through the first stretch, moving quietly to avoid the manor's watchful eyes. Every gesture, every signal had been rehearsed. Trust was their shield, courage was their sword. They knew the path ahead was dangerous, but the desire to be together outweighed every fear. The garden, which had been their sanctuary, now bore witness to a vow of courage and undying love. As the first shadows of dawn crept over the horizon, they slipped quietly from the manor, hearts racing with anticipation and fear. Every step was measured, every sound a potential danger. Yet the thrill of escape, the hope of freedom lent strength to their legs, light to their hearts. The world behind them was full of threats, but the path ahead held promise. Through whispering woods and hidden trails, they moved silently, each glance confirming their resolve. Danger still lingered, but so did hope, fragile, shimmering, and unstoppable. The escape had begun, and with it the first taste of liberation, a fleeting yet potent promise that love could conquer even the cruelest of fates. The sky was just beginning to lighten, painted in soft pinks and lilacs, when they stepped out from the shadowed edge of the manor. Each breath was cautious, measured, as if the world itself had slowed down to watch their escape. The young woman's heart fluttered like a bird trapped between fear and hope. Every leaf in the whispering woods seemed to murmur warnings, every distant crow a silent alarm. The farmer's hand gripped hers tightly, anchoring her to the present, to courage, to the impossible dream of freedom. They crept through narrow alleys and silent courtyards, aware that even the faintest sound could betray them. The morning fog swirled around their feet, dampening their movements, hiding their footprints from prying eyes. The faint scent of fresh bread from a baker's oven reminded them of normal life, simple, calm, yet utterly out of reach. Every glance they shared carried silent reassurance. We will survive. We will reach beyond the walls, together. Suddenly, a shadow moved in the corner of their vision, a villager heading toward the manor. They froze, hearts pounding. The farmer whispered for them to stay low, pressing her into the shelter of a hedge. The footsteps passed, slow and unaware, leaving them trembling but safe. It was a reminder. The world outside was alive, watchful, and dangerous. Yet courage and stealth could bend even the harshest odds. Finally, they reached the edge of the northern woods, the path the farmer had scouted for weeks. The trees rose like guardians, their dense canopy a shield against the early sun and prying eyes. Every branch, every fallen leaf became part of a silent map, guiding them forward. The young woman felt both exhilarated and terrified. Every step deeper into the forest was a step toward freedom, but also into uncertainty. From the distance, a sound, a snapped twig, too deliberate to be nature, alerted them. The neighbor lord's son had realized their plan. His pursuit was relentless, fueled by pride, cruelty, and obsession. The farmer held the young woman close, whispering instructions. Stay low, follow me, trust every step. The forest, once serene, became a labyrinth of tension, every shadow a possible threat, every rustle a potential trap. Hours into their flight, they reached a shallow river, its waters cold, rushing, and urgent. The farmer tested the depth with a stick before guiding her across, step by cautious step. The young woman's dress clung to her legs, the chill of the water biting at her skin, yet the risk was worth every shiver. On the opposite bank, the trees beckoned once more, promising cover, safety, and the faint hope that they might finally slip from danger's grasp. They found a hollow under the roots of an ancient oak, a natural refuge. Here they could pause, breathe, and regroup. The young woman pressed her face into his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. Even in the hollow, danger lingered. Every distant sound, every crack of a branch could signal pursuit. Yet for a fleeting moment, they allowed themselves relief, a stolen calm in the heart of chaos. Time passed slowly, each second stretching like eternity. The young woman whispered her fears, her doubts, her hopes. The farmer listened, never interrupting, his presence a constant anchor. They spoke in hushed tones, plotting their next move, while keeping their voices low enough that the forest itself seemed to swallow the words. The fear of discovery sharpened their senses, yet their hearts remained intertwined, strengthened by adversity.
As the sun climbed higher, shadows shifted, revealing the first glimmers of the neighbor lord's son and a few loyal servants. The chase resumed, faster, more dangerous. Every leap over a fallen log, every crouch beneath a low branch became a dance of survival. The young woman stumbled, but the farmer's strong hands caught her immediately. Their connection, physical and emotional, was now inseparable, a single pulse of determination and love. At last, after hours of running, the woods opened into a secluded glade, distant from prying eyes. They collapsed onto the soft grass, breathless, exhausted, yet victorious for this fleeting moment. The forest seemed to breathe with them, holding its quiet magic around the pair. They laughed softly, relief mingling with lingering fear.
hearts still racing, but minds beginning to imagine freedom. For the first time in days, the world felt a little less oppressive, and hope, fragile yet unyielding, glimmered like dawn itself. The days that followed were spent in quiet routines, gathering water, tending small plants, and scouting the surrounding forest. These mundane tasks were now acts of survival and defiance. With each shared chore, each small conversation, their bond deepened. They laughed quietly over minor mishaps, whispered dreams of future freedom, and discovered a rhythm to life that, though harsh, was theirs alone. The forest, alive with its own mysteries, became their teacher. They observed the patterns of birds, the tracks of animals, and the hidden sources of water. In doing so, they learned patience, caution, and the subtle art of blending with the world around them. Every lesson from the earth and sky reminded them that survival required awareness, yet also inspired hope that their love, like the forest, could endure even the harshest seasons. One afternoon, the sunlight broke through the canopy in a sudden burst, illuminating a small waterfall they had not noticed before. The water sparkled like liquid crystal, and the young woman gasped softly in wonder. They sat together by its edge, letting the gentle sound of cascading water wash away tension, fear, and sorrow. In moments like these, the world felt wide and welcoming, and they allowed themselves to dream again. Yet even in paradise, shadows lingered. One evening, distant voices echoed through the trees, carried by the wind. The farmer's hand went instinctively to hers, squeezing tightly. Their sanctuary was still vulnerable. Every rustle, every whispered sound reminded them that freedom was fragile, and the path ahead would require courage, vigilance, and trust. As night fell, they sat under the stars, hands intertwined, hearts synchronized. "We have survived this far," he whispered. "No matter what comes next, we face it together." Her eyes glimmered with quiet determination, reflecting the stars above. The forest, their hidden refuge, had given them strength, perspective, and a renewed sense of purpose. In this calm, they were not merely escaping, they were preparing for the final steps toward the life they dreamed of.
The sun rose slowly over the hidden refuge, painting the forest in gentle golds and soft greens. The young woman stirred, stretching her limbs and savoring the momentary safety. For the first time in days, the forest seemed to breathe alongside them, quiet and serene. Yet even in this calm, the farmer felt a prickle of unease, a subtle whisper that the world beyond the trees had not forgotten them. While gathering water at the stream, the farmer noticed something amiss. Footprints, small, deliberate, too precise to belong to deer or forest creatures. He traced them quietly, heart beating steadily, but tensely. The young woman followed silently, her fingers clutching his sleeve, feeling the first tendrils of fear coil around her. Someone had found them, or at least come dangerously close. By mid-morning, the air itself seemed charged. Branches cracked under unseen weight, birds scattered in sharp flares of alarm, and distant voices carried faintly on the breeze. The farmer whispered urgently for them to return to the refuge, but they both knew the shadows were closing in. Their sanctuary, once a haven, now teetered on the edge of peril. Without warning, the neighbor lord's son and two of his men emerged from the trees, moving with calculated precision. The young woman froze, but the farmer acted swiftly, pulling her behind a large oak. Every muscle in his body tensed, every sense heightened. The enemy had arrived, and the chase that had seemed distant was now terrifyingly immediate. They ran again, guided by the farmer's intimate knowledge of the woods. Twisting paths, hidden hollows, and thick underbrush became both shields and obstacles. The young woman stumbled, scraping her palms on rough bark, but he caught her before she fell.
Each heartbeat, each breath carried the dual weight of fear and exhilaration. The forest seemed alive with whispers, as if aware of their desperate flight. Eventually, they reached a shallow creek, its waters rushing quietly but urgently. He led her across carefully, stones slick underfoot, currents biting at their legs. The pursuers hesitated, unwilling to risk slowing their pace, and the couple gained precious moments of distance. Every step was a gamble, every movement a defiance of the cruel world determined to separate them. They ducked into a dense thicket, leaves and branches concealing them from view. Their breaths came in harsh whispers, bodies pressed together for warmth and reassurance. The farmer brushed dirt and scratches from her clothing, his hands lingering with the same gentle intimacy that had grown between them over weeks of peril. They had survived, for now, but the threat remained, a dark shadow looming on the edges of their fragile freedom. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, they found a small clearing. Here they could pause, rest, and plan. The farmer laid out paths through the forest he had memorized, considering escape routes, hiding spots, and the timing of movements. Each choice carried risk, yet careful strategy was their shield. In silence, they shared glances that spoke volumes. Courage, trust, and love could guide them even through the darkest moments. The young woman allowed herself a small smile, leaning her head against his chest. "We have faced so much already," she whispered. "We will survive this too." He kissed her forehead softly, heart swelling with fierce pride and determination. Even in the face of immediate danger, they found a quiet strength in each other, a reminder that love, even tested and threatened, was a force no shadow could extinguish. Night fell over the forest, bringing with it a fragile calm. They made camp beneath a canopy of thick leaves, listening to the distant sounds of pursuit that gradually faded. Each rustle, each snap of twig reminded them that freedom was earned, not given. Yet, as they held each other close under the starlit sky, a fragile hope glimmered, a promise that the next steps, though perilous, might finally lead them toward lasting peace. The first light of dawn painted the forest in muted shades of gold and rose. The young woman stirred, sensing the weight of the day ahead. Every leaf, every bird's call, every rustle of the wind seemed to whisper a single truth. The moment of choice had arrived. The farmer sat beside her, eyes calm but resolute. Today they would either claim their freedom or face separation forever. They examined the forest paths, noting which were safe and which could lead them into danger. The shadow of the neighbor lord's son still lingered, though weakened by the previous night's missteps. They knew that one wrong move could undo all they had fought for. With careful planning, they plotted a path toward a distant village where loyal allies and hidden safe houses awaited. Before they moved, the young woman took a moment to breathe deeply. She thought of her mother's expectations, the cruel weight of status and wealth, and the life she had always been told to live. Her heart ached at the thought of leaving it behind. Yet, love had opened her eyes to a world she had never imagined, a life where choice belonged to her, not to the world. The farmer took her hand, steady and warm. "No matter what happens," he whispered, "we face it together. Fear cannot bind us. Only love can guide us." His words, simple yet profound, became a lifeline. In that quiet exchange, they reaffirmed their bond and the courage they would need to navigate the perils of the day. They moved slowly through a narrow, winding path, the forest thick around them. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves demanded vigilance. The farmer led, eyes scanning, every muscle ready for action. The young woman followed, trusting him completely, her heart beating in rhythm with his own, a quiet, unwavering pulse of hope. Suddenly, in a distant clearing, a figure appeared. The neighbor lord's son, flanked by two men. His eyes gleamed with anger and frustration. The farmer pressed the young woman against a tree, holding her close, whispering reassurances. The danger was immediate, yet their determination remained unshaken. They had come too far to falter now. They could turn back, retreat into hiding, and prolong their uncertain safety, or they could continue forward, risking all for a chance at true freedom. The young woman looked into the farmer's eyes, seeing courage mirrored in his gaze. Together, they made the choice to advance, to defy the cruel world, and to claim the life their hearts demanded. With synchronized movement, they dashed through the forest, weaving between trees, leaping over roots and fallen logs. The pursuers faltered, hindered by terrain and their own hesitation. Each heartbeat, each breath became a declaration of defiance. The forest seemed to bend around them, aiding their flight, as if nature itself were aligned with the power of their love. After hours of tense flight, they reached the outskirts of the distant village, hidden paths leading to safe houses and friendly faces. The tension that had gripped them began to ease, replaced by exhaustion laced with relief. For the first time, the young woman allowed herself a smile, and the farmer's laugh, low and joyful, echoed softly through the trees. They had survived, but more importantly, they had chosen each other. As night fell once more, they sat together beneath a starlit sky, hearts beating in quiet harmony. The choice had been made, courage had carried them, and love had guided the way. The young woman leaned against the farmer, and together they imagined a future unbound by walls, status, or cruelty, a life built on freedom, trust, and enduring devotion. The forest whispered its approval, the stars glimmered like tiny witnesses, and the world felt, for the first time, wide and welcoming.
The dawn broke gently, spilling soft light across the village outskirts. For the first time in what felt like years, no footsteps of pursuers echoed, no fearful shadows lingered, only the steady hum of life, of safety, of possibility. The young woman stirred awake beside the farmer, her hand still resting over his heart. The world, once so cruel, finally felt kind. As they walked toward the hidden safe house, villagers recognized them, faces warm with compassion, eyes shining with quiet understanding. These were people who knew hardship, who valued love above all else. They opened their doors, their arms, and their hearts, offering food, shelter, and a place where the couple could finally breathe without fear. Days later, a letter arrived. It was from her mother, the woman torn between tradition and love for her child. With trembling hands, the young woman opened it. The words were simple yet powerful. "My daughter, I cannot change the world, but I will not stand against your happiness. Live the life your heart has chosen." Tears filled her eyes, a burden lifted from her soul. The farmer and the young woman began working the soil together, side by side. With each seed planted, they laid down hope, not just for themselves, but for the life they would build. The earth, rich and forgiving, seemed to welcome them. Their laughter blended with the songs of birds, weaving joy into the fabric of their days. As the seasons turned, the village prepared for its festival. Lanterns glowed softly against the twilight. Children laughed. Music drifted across the fields. Hand in hand, the couple walked among the lights, their faces illuminated not by flame, but by the quiet glow of peace. For once, they were not fugitives. They were simply two souls in love.
That night, beneath the canopy of stars, they spoke of the road that had brought them here. The fear, the chases, the nights spent hiding. Yet what they remembered most was not the danger. It was the way their hands had always found each other in the dark. The way love had carried them farther than fear ever could. The farmer took her hand, eyes shining. "No matter what lies ahead," he whispered, "we will face it as one."
she smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. And love will always lead us home. In that quiet moment, the world around them seemed to pause, holding its breath in reverence to their promise. Seasons passed, and their lives unfolded with the simple beauty they had once dreamed of. Fields of golden grain, evenings of laughter, mornings of shared silence. No grand palaces, no wealth or titles, only love, freedom, and the quiet joy of belonging. A life ordinary to some, but extraordinary to them. On one especially clear night, they lay together in the grass, watching the stars bloom across the sky. The young woman traced constellations with her finger, whispering their names, while the farmer held her close. Above them, the universe stretched endless and vast, but in each other's arms, they had found their forever. And so their tale ended not with sorrow, but with love. Not with separation, but with togetherness. The world could be harsh, cruel, and unforgiving, but in the quiet corners, where two hearts chose each other over everything else, there was hope. There was peace. There was a love strong enough to last beyond time itself. The lanterns dimmed, the stars shimmered softly, and the night embraced them. Their story, now complete, became a lullaby, guiding every listener into dreams filled with love, peace, and the gentle promise of tomorrow.
Thank you for walking this path with dream-woven history, where stories never fade and memories live forever. May your night be peaceful, your dreams full of wonder, and may history whisper to you until the morning light.